All right, peace and blessings, everybody. It's Sunday, February the 11th, 2018. I've written David Hinkson a letter, and he connected with me on Core Links, and he's written me back 3 very long Core Links emails, and so I'm going to read those into YouTube. I just finished reading a U.S. Observer article about his case. And to summarize what the U.S. Observer article highlights were, it appears that David Hinkson was a veteran. He was exposing some things in the IRS. He had a talk show radio. And he was also selling some sort of minerals that was for health purposes. And the government got some dude named Swisher to lie on the jury stand, lie in front of the jury about soliciting to murder government officials. Sounds very similar to Schaefer Cox's story in that regard. But there's also other U.S. Observer articles on David Hinkson besides the one that I read. So there's like 2 or 3, maybe even 4 of them. So just type in David Hinkson and U.S. Observer and you'll see all these different articles that people have written about him and his case. But I'm going to read to you an updated letter that I got from David Hinkson today. Keep in mind his release date isn't until 2040, so he's got sentenced to many, many years in prison. Here goes. About my case and its current status. The lawyer Wesley Hoyt helped me lose my case every step of the way and collected $2,500 a week for over 12 years as he milked me and my Water Oz business like a milk cow. As Roland, my father, let him do this to me and my business. I can prove every step of the way that Mr. Hoyt worked against me to keep me in prison, and he meant what he said to do. He meant what he said to me at the ADX. But he did hire Ed to work on my situation, and my business paid him $10,000. Here is where it gets interesting. As I knew before the trial even started that their star witness, Mr. Swisher, was in a coma during the entire month of June, July, August, September, and October of 2002. So right before the trial started, I told Wesley this, and he went out and told the prosecutors that I had an alibi as I was in Russia and Mr. Swisher was in a coma in July. So as Mr. Hoyt betrayed me, they superseded my indictment and added more threat charges for January of 2003 just to cancel my alibi in July. Hoyt told me that he had filed an alibi motion, but after reading my transcripts, no such motion was ever filed. Wesley was a liar. Even in January, Mr. Swisher was still very sick and in a wheelchair, and even to this day, he is barely alive. So the theory of their case really was as follows. I must have forged my passport with 3 country stamps, snuck back into the U.S. territory, and then snuck into the VA hospital to whisper in his comatose ear, "Will you kill for me?" Well, if you believe that story, I can say you have been reading too many Stephen King novels. Anyway, over the years, Mr. Hoyt filed frivolous motions in my name to make sure that I never could win my case, as he had me sign over 50 blank pages of typing paper, as he stated that it was difficult to reach me in the ADX. This is all provable. So now I'm actually procedurally barred from going back to court, and this was done on purpose by Mr. Hoyt. I also qualified under the new Supreme Court ruling called Johnson for relief, but I could not get anybody to help me as they threw me back into the shoe for 5 months, and this stopped me from filing under the new Johnson ruling. So now all that I need to get back into court is some newly discovered evidence to allow me to get back into court under actual innocence gateway. If I only had proof that Mr. Swisher was in the hospital in the full month of July, it would be the new evidence that I need to win and get out of prison. If the DeMaya case that the Supreme Court is now looking at gets ruled on correctly in the next few months, this again would allow me to come back to court and get some relief. DeMaya case has to do with the concept of vague laws. So in all reality, they hid my passport and my over 10 different alibis before the trial, and when I asked Hoyt About Mr. Swisher's medical records, I was told by Hoyt that they were confidential and protected under the federal HIPAA law. I have confirmed that this was a lie by 4 attorneys since then. I was always entitled to these medical records, even under the Brady standard. So now all I have to do is to get back into court is now to prove that Mr. Swisher was in the hospital during the time, July, that he said he came to my trailer, don't own a trailer. I have not been able to get anyone to help me contact the VA hospital, so I did a FOIA. Now I have done 10 FOIAs, and I'm waiting for someone to answer, and I hope that I will get proof that he was in the VA hospital. Note that Mr. Swisher was subsequently prosecuted for stealing these VA benefits that were spent to pay for his hospital stay while he was in this coma, and even the air flight to Spokane. This is new evidence, like maybe DNA testing. I have not told Ed about this as of yet. So Mr. Swisher was convicted of stealing the $250,000 in medical VA benefits and getting a monthly disability check for $4,000. But the problem, he was not in the Korean War, and he forged his DD-214 to get these benefits. And he was prosecuted in Montana for stealing these benefits, and the VA is suing him right now trying to get the money back. Mr. Swisher is a sociopathic liar who never can tell the truth. Even now, Mr. Swisher has given me a new affidavit, but it just tells more lies. Mr. Swisher also was put on trial for child molestation in 1980 and got released on a technicality as he was really guilty. I have affidavits from his 2 daughters who were molested starting at age 5. This man is so evil that it is embarrassing. It is embarrassing for me to even say who and what he is in this email. Now, Ed wanted me to give another $10,000 to start over helping me work with Mr. Grassley, but my father has to refuse to pay again. I now have $250,000 in my bank account, and my father will not let me have access to it, so I remain very poor. But if I could get released, this is my money. I also still own a 300-acre farm in Idaho. I told Ron Lee that he could take the first $10,000 we raised during the crowdfunding project on the Galt to give it to Mr. Snook to get him started again. But as you know, things are moving slow on my end. So in summary here, if you guys are interested in getting involved in helping me, I would like to get involved with you, and I would even help you place a Galt on your property to help fund you mission if you are interested and really believe in me and my concepts. I don't know what a GALT is. Anybody know what a GALT is? I would also be interested in teaching you the secret formula for the copper if you want it. I had the idea of offering this formula for the copper to the King of Swaziland, King Maswati III, as I was already curing some of his citizens working with the Anton Botha there in 2001. I just want to get some political attention now, as I want to give some gifts to some of these countries. Have you heard about crowd innovating? You know, it might be a very strange concept for him to understand, but I'm going to make it very clear to him that I don't want nothing from him. I don't want him to offer me anything. I don't want him to say anything about money. I don't want him to even talk about anything like that. And so I'm going to read his letter, but when I reply back, I'll make that very clear. In this concept, they offer prizes for new inventions. One prize is $25 million. If someone finds a new way to kill viruses, as the penicillin is not working on some strains of bacteria, well, my copper product kills all viruses and nitrogen-breathing bacteria and parasites, and it crosses the blood-brain and spinal barriers. Thus, it even is the cure for the brain-eating amoeba. If you are interested, I would donate the reward to you if you wanted to go and apply for the prize. But remember, the powers to be really do not want anyone to really cure any of these diseases, as they are busy making a profit on the misery of others. Note that everything I do is deemed to not work by the mainstream media, even the 7 energy devices. I even had the idea of offering one of the Galt motors to Mr. Trump for his properties before he announced he was going to run for president. I also heard about the mining company called Pebble Mining in Alaska, and now President Trump had removed the wilderness designations so they could mine their property. I found this interesting, as I had a late friend named Doug who found the mother lode of platinum out in the Nevada desert. The assay report showed about 3,000 ounces of platinum in every square yard of dirt out there, and this sounds crazy. I'm now the only person who knows where it is at, and my attorney Scott Cantor would confirm that this is a real and true story. I would gladly give you this information if you would like to have it. I have lots of ideas and ways to fund things. I just want you to know what it is that I have to offer and attempt to help myself. Okay, you know, him and I just now started talking to one another, and he's like obviously got the idea that he's going to have to like offer me something to help him. I don't want anything from him. I don't care if he's got $500 billion. I don't want anything from him. You understand what I mean? And it's if he wasn't like a new guy that I'm reading about, I would almost be like mad. You know, it's like all the other people that have come and tried to offer their help to Mr. Hinkson might have wanted something, but I don't want a damn thing from him. And he may be very smart. He may have a lot of knowledge about curing diseases and finding old copper and platinum, and that's all good and dandy, but that don't mean anything to me. During the years I have been here, I have wanted someone to talk to the Russian ambassador, as I was there when they said I did all of my crimes. And I even had an annual Russian visa for the entire year of 2001 and 2002. My friend Dennis is now building a Galt motor that is for China, as he is Chinese. They have said that they would call President Trump and complain about political prisoners in the U.S. for me when they see the video. Well, last week, Dennis showed them the video of the Galt working and violating the law of Linz. Therefore, this means that I could have this emailed to you. Ron said that he wants to go up and take a picture of it, and then he will move forward on the crowdfunding project. Now, Dennis Chan, who works at a Christian homeless shelter in Dennis Chan now works at a Christian homeless shelter in San Francisco. Dennis sounds a little bit crazy, but he is very devoted and hardworking to our energy and medical cause, and he is a Christian, but he really wants to go back to China as he is Chinese. I can put you in touch with any of these players if you want. Now, one of my best friends who died, who was a nuclear scientist a couple of weeks ago. His name was Bob Sandberg. And in this will, he left me his home and land, and I really don't want it. It is my goal to spend the rest of my life, if I ever get out, working with the sick and needy. I also want to make the global warming scheme my own scheme to do God work. I also want to make the global warming scheme my own scheme to do God work. Anyway, I have ranted enough. Let me know if you want to hear any more about any of the things I have talked about in this email. Note that I am still on the terrorist watch list, and it may take me 3 days to get an email on some days. God bless, your friend Dave. Okay, that was the first of 3. Let me read the other one. Dear Rude, my attorney that I fired was named Wesley Hoyt. He had paid Ed Snook at the U.S. Observer $10,000 of my Water Oz funds to give me some kind of political help, but the job never got finished, as Mr. Hoyt was attempting to steal my Water Oz business so he could steal the cash flow. He allowed my ex-workers to make the products wrong so that they would no longer remove the common cold, and I got very upset and fired him at this time. Then Wesley sued me in the Idaho State Court, as he made the claim that I was incompetent because I was firing him and my father. Anyway, Wesley lost this lawsuit. The reason that I was attempting to fire Wesley and solve some of the problems is that Wesley had talked my father into not paying my mortgage, and then about 2 weeks before they were going to auction me off and Water Oz would have been lost, I gave my power of attorney to someone else. Then my people showed up and attempted to fix this business, and the fight started. At that time, a man named Chris Fire bombed the factory building using some kind of incendiary device. This whole mess was caused by the fact that Wesley Hoyt was controlling my father's mind to destroy me. Hoyt, in my opinion, is a very evil man. One time, Wesley visited me in the ADX, and he told me that the Lord wanted me to die in prison. Wesley was very self-righteous. Wesley is of the same faith as all of the people who sued me up there in Idaho, as they lied against me and tried to stop my work and steal my business. When I was building my factory up in Idaho, I had an extra steel building, and I had purchased from a friend in Las Vegas, and then I decided I did not need it, so I gave it to the Baptist minister up in the States, and this building became their new chapel. Also, I have done many talk shows, about 1,200. My main station was WWCR, Worldwide Christian Network, out of Nashville. I had many great interviews, and one time I interviewed Bill Benson, who wrote the book called The Law That Never Was. I also interviewed Mr. Griffith, who wrote The Creature from Jekyll Island. My show started right after Bill Cooper's show, Behold the Pale Horse. Bill and I had become very good friends. I had Bill on my show many times. If you remember, Bill was shot back in Arizona while I was still in the ADX. When I was younger, I used build buildings and had my own construction company and was hired to build a home for a Maxine and Ray Reynolds. And then when I got done building this home, I learned that her daughter was Debbie Reynolds. Maxine set me up with a date with Carrie Fisher, but she stood me up. But I remained friends with Debbie until she passed away a few months back. I also used to go fishing with Todd Fisher, Carrie's brother. I got cancer back in 1988, and that is when I started studying medicine. I was able to cure my cancer using the natural herbs and things. I'm an expert on cancer at this time. I went to medical school late and got my degree in naturopath in 1999. The real reason I had originally created the Water Oz business was for the sole purpose of having something to sell on the talk shows to pay for the airtime. But it changed after I discovered I could remove the common cold in 2 hours. The whole project became a mission to help others, and I kept lowering the price and giving away free samples as these minerals to help people. I started traveling to other countries in the year 2001. As of now, the undercover feds have sued me about 8 times with phony lawsuits. Nobody is now safe from going to prison if they do not like you. Anyway, I will type more to you later today. Your friend in Jesus, Dave. Okay, this is the third and final letter from David Hinkson. Bless you guys. I got your letter and was very impressed with it. I have much to tell you about if you want to hear about it. I have some things you might find very interesting. Note that I know Ed Snook at usobserver.com. I have also been working with Ron Lee, who works there. Also, my friend Dennis Chan has a nephew who works there also. I don't want to bore you or scare you off by telling you what I know, by telling you what I have to say, but there is really quite a bit to tell you that you might not know that you might be interested in. A lot of it is not really part of my case. The question is, why did they attack me and put an innocent man in prison? Well, I was not making just mineral water. I found a way to make copper metal into a non-toxic drink and was traveling overseas to do the clinical studies, working as a free volunteer with doctors who were working for the Doctors Without Borders. Yes, I also have a degree in naturopath. Anyway, I was testing my new copper product and discovered that it was the cure for AIDS and malaria. In fact, it removes, or should I say kills, all parasites and viruses in about 2 hours. This is really a miracle. Then I also did actual testing in Swaziland, Dominican Republic, and Haiti, to mention just a few places. I also had some Christian missionaries curing these diseases as part of their ministry over in South Africa. I was also working with a Dr. Anton Botha on some of these projects. My copper is really a miracle, and I wanted to incorporate it into all of the Christian ministry's work that I was helping do. Yes, I even spoke to congregations. Note that yes, I am a Christian. So now I am a man in prison at church named I met a man in prison at church named Eddie McClendon. He is now rebuilding my factory and producing this copper product right now. Yes, I now have sample of it again. I sent some of these new products to my lawyer friend of mine in Las Vegas named Scott Cantor, and he drank over 1 gallon of this copper in a month and lost his terminal condition of lymphoma cancer. I had my cousin Derek Karchner drink about 8 ounces of it, and he lost his lung infection that he had for over 3 months. So as you can see, I have a lot to tell you about. One of my projects that I'm now trying to get done from here in prison is I want to have someone with MS and or MD. MS, I guess, is multiple sclerosis. I don't know what MD is. You guys know what MD is? Consume some of these copper products, as I think it might actually be the cure for these 2 diseases, and even Lou Gehrig's disease, as the copper has been shown to fix the liver protein digestion, and these diseases are caused by this. So as you can see, you might, I think MD is muscular dystrophy. So as you can see, you might want to help me do some of these clinical studies. It is really about helping others. Anyways, God bless you, and I will email you again tomorrow and say more if you want, as I have much more to tell you about Dave. Wow. That was 3 incredible emails from Dave Hinkson. He's got a release date of 2040, and his charges are that he conspired to murder federal officials, and the guy that set him up was in a coma at the time. And we hear all the time that, oh, you tried to conspire to murder federal officials. I mean, that's what they said Pat Parsons, or, she was going to kidnap a judge, Schaefer Cox. I mean, that's the modus operandi of the FBI. While I don't know what to think about all his claims for medical treatments and his inventions for whatever he talked about just now, his story about innocence rings true with me because it models some of the other political prisoners that we advocate for. So I do want to further communicate with him. Let me also say, if you've stuck with me this long through the reading of his letters, I do not want to be associated with U.S. Observer. I'm not going to say anything bad about them publicly, but this guy is obviously very well connected with that organization. And I simply do not want to be associated with them. I operate in a different mode. I don't take money from political prisoners. I've never asked a political prisoner for anything, and I think you guys got it. All right, take care, God bless, and please write an email to David Hinkson, and let's start figuring out what's going on with him and do what we can to raise awareness about his case. Thank you, and take care.